Here we go, my son, here we go. Well done, my son.
We were poorer than poor, and all we had to keep us going.
All we had to keep us going was movie news on a Wednesday night. You're MV, I think you've got out there, John.
There's a sachet of powdered custard. Some of the best days of my life. Rab Carlisle.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday, halfway through the week. I'm not going to say hump day because I want to slap people that call
it's a hump week.
Yeah.
It's a hump month. It's a hump year. We're utterly humped.
But welcome to the show anyway. This is a great start. Welcome to our YouTube channel and Twitch stream as well, and anyone that's maybe listening to this on our podcast as well later on.
Wait there, I look, Stephen.
But
I tried to sort the colour out. I look like a Promethean from Alien.
Yeah, incredibly
white. Wow.
I thought you'd blanked it there. I thought you couldn't remember what franchise you were talking about there, John.
I was actually the director. Ridley Scott. Who we're talking about at the end of this show.
Yeah, we'll close with him, but we will open with that thumbnail, John. It's obviously Priyanka Chopra, Jonas, gets candid about Indian representation in our upcoming Blumhouse movie. Since Jason Blum's company Blumhouse Productions first made a name for itself in the horror landscape with 2007's Paranormal Activity, that was an okay film, has been instrumental in dawning a new age for the genre with films like Jordan Peele's Get Out. Blumhouse has championed diverse voices to contribute to this renaissance. Among the latest voices is Indian actress, singer and producer Priyanka Chopra Jonas. Now this is coming from Cinema Blend, John.
Yeah.
She is an executive producer on one of Amazon Prime's 4 Welcome to the Blumhouse films. This one titled Evil Eye, which while promoting the new movie, now available on the streaming platform, Priyanka Chopra Jonas talked about the importance of the thriller with these words. She had this to say: "My quest in life as a producer is to influx Hollywood with brown people because we don't see enough of us, and to be able to do an all South Asian cast in a movie with Amazon and Blumhouse, who are both powerhouses, was a dream come true for me. Want to demand leading parts for people who are like me. I want to have girls that look like me start to be on the poster of a movie. It's my greatest joy and honour to be able to create opportunities where I didn't have them." After an exceptionally successful career in India, Priyanka Chopra Jonas, that's some name, has started to become a prominent name in Hollywood as well with her work in Baywatch, Quantico, and Isn't It Romantic? As Chopra Jonas told ET, that's Entertainment Tonight, she takes a proactive approach to making sure Indian representation is not a rare occurrence on film by using her privilege within the industry. What is your take on this, John? Because we're talking about obviously representation here, and we're talking about opportunities now that weren't there before, and a lot of that has got to do with streaming platforms, isn't it?
Absolutely, Stephen. This is one of the other positive aspects that the likes of Amazon Prime, not Plus as I kept calling it last night, and Netflix, this is what they bring to the table. They bring representation for a wide variety of different people from different backgrounds, different communities, be it minority, majority, whatever. And they lend a voice to people coming up in the industry, be they filmmakers or established names like maybe a Kevin Smith who's fell out of perhaps the limelight and then he wants to go in and make a movie, perhaps a Nicolas Cage. They will offer up opportunities for everyone. And of course Blumhouse as well, they are another studio who are firmly in favour of offering representation, offering different ideas for movies, because they're such... The way that they're ran, they also have incredibly low budgets for their movies. There's not a huge amount of expectation, if you like, on the movie's performance. If it hits off amazingly well, like an Invisible Man or something, then they have made a huge profit. If it doesn't, some flop, that's okay, because it's not massive for $150, $200 million movies. So they are always happy to offer a different viewpoint into a movie, into storytelling, into representation for a Priyanka Chopra Jonas. What a name that is. So good a name, I can't say it. Is it even Priyanka, or is it Priyak? Don't know, I'll just go with Priyanka, screw it, because I'm going to start stuttering like a stuttering Stanley over the word P, and that's never good. But Stephen, in terms of representation itself, always happy to see it. Spoke before many times about this. Get little bitches now going on about social justice warriors and whatnot, and whilst I don't really agree with the more extreme left that it seems to harbour itself in the likes of social media and whatnot.
Yeah.
I do agree with representation on movies, on the screen. You should be able to watch it from all parts of the world, John, and see yourself represented on the screen. We are a teeming,
John, you're able to
populace.
see something genuine. You are able to see something that's shoehorned. That's the difference.
Absolutely. We've seen it with Star Wars, Stephen. That was forced representation. It didn't work. The Chinese seen right through it when they try to force the Rose Tico character upon us. Kelly Marie Tran, great actor though she is, they try to force an Asian face onto the screen. The character was an afterthought. John Boyega's come out and absolutely destroyed them for it. That's forced representation. It doesn't go over well with the fan base, but if it's handled in an organic manner and it's a story that's befitting for representation, for diversification of the cast, then people will most times get on board with it. And as I keep saying, I want to see more and more teaming representation. Teaming's the word I'm going to use, because we are such a diverse, richly diverse planet, populace, race if you like, species, whatever adjective you want to use, and it's usually dominated by white people like me, Casper White. So we need to see more. And I'm showing my age here. Casper, 1990s. Who was it? Christina Ricci was in that?
And Eric Idle.
Yes, a long time ago. I'm showing myself up for being the 30-something person that I am. It depresses me in equal measure. But yeah, there's a lot of people like me on the screen and not enough people from minority communities. And it's great to see Blumhouse are firmly in favour of it. They have given this movie, Evil Eye, I believe it is, upcoming movie with Priyanka, pretty much an entire South Asian cast. And there's representation behind the camera too, so that's great.
We'll talk about Amazon Prime as well. Because we are going to be doing our KGF review this Friday after watching both trailers. Fantastic trailers, well received as well. You know, and we love the fact that people are interacting, giving us comments, recommendations, opening up our eyes to this world of Indian cinema, and teaching us. It's a learning curve for us. But also, while I was looking at the availability on Amazon Prime for that film, here's some other films that are being recommended. There's a whole host of these, John, on Prime at the moment. Obviously, that benefits us because it means we've got access to them. You know, people were asking us, when are you going to do the reviews? We're going to start doing them very shortly. We're going to start this Friday and take it from there. And it's all live as well, so
live and interactive.
Yeah, we're hanging ourselves out to dry. But yeah, I mean, it's great, John. You talk about Blumhouse as well. Just before I let you in about Amazon Prime, I've always said that I like their business model. Doesn't matter how much money they make on films like The Invisible Man. Their next film isn't some massive, big, giant blockbuster that they've made off the back of their previous film. They stick to the same template, and 9 times out of 10 their films are mediocre, but there's always that 1 in 10 that's a really good film, and they make their money back on it. Stephen,
I says that they're really unique. They've sort of positioned themselves in a unique way in the industry now, whereby they create really low budget movies. 9 times out of 10 they will make money, even if it's shit. It will still make money back. And then the odd occasion you have huge releases, huge success stories. Invisible Man, I keep saying. Upgrade was another one I really enjoyed. They do a wide variety of different movies, usually horror centric, but they're a really cool little studio. Jason Blum, I think, is the guy. I hope it's Jason Blum. I hope I've not put my foot in it. The main man at Blumhouse. He's a really open guy. He's an open-minded guy, if you like, and as I keep saying, almost like the streaming services, very open-minded to new direction, to interesting story concepts, and it's because they do rake the money in and they don't make big blockbuster releases. It's not like, to quote a football sort of terminology, soccer if you like, it's not like an Ajax or whatever. It's more like Celtic over here in Scotland. You rake the money in, you just keep spending the same amount of money, and the money keeps raking in, and it allows them to be adventurous, whereas an Ajax or something like that, they spend more and more as they bring more in. So you're right, Stephen, that's a positive. But obviously Amazon Prime, streaming services in general, we've now seen the news that Disney Plus are readjusting their strategy to focus primarily on streaming services, and I think they're going to, there's talk that they're perhaps completely ditching physical media completely. I don't know if that's true. I just read into it briefly, but you're right, they've not got a choice, and that's just, Stephen, showing you where the industry's going now. It really is readjusting and focusing in on the streaming thing. I think they're now beginning to realise that things are evolving. We'll always have a a place for going to the theatres to watch a movie, but more and more movies will be appearing on streaming services.
Yeah.
And it's because of what you mentioned about Amazon Prime, the diverse catalogue they have. You can go and watch movies from India, from all over the place, Korea, everywhere. You have it at your fingertips immediately. That's a huge positive for people like us who are wanting to delve into new markets, into new worlds of storytelling.
It takes a foreign film, I'm going to say that, right? It takes a foreign film to be Academy Awarded nominated before we can get a wide release here in Scotland, and that was the case with Parasite. It took the nomination to really bring it to the forefront to our cinemas here. Otherwise, and I always maintained this when we watched the trailer, I said I'm not really sure if Scotland, Glasgow in particular, will show this. They did, but that was obviously after.
Huge Oscar buzz.
Yeah, exactly.
The momentum was with it. You're right, we never get to see these movies, and that's where streaming services step in. They allow you access to movies like this. Stephen, I love foreign language movies. I've seen Danish movies, German movies, Dutch movies, Asian movies, Indian movies, everything, man. I love watching movies from all over the world. It's unique. There's something about a Korean movie. It's so clinical and brilliant in its storytelling, the way it satirises the world, their world, the populace, the way that the rich and poor divide and stuff like that. You don't get movies like that over here. It's different storytelling techniques, and that's why it's great to have access to it, and obviously these streaming services. But Stephen, look, I spoke about it last night. Finally, it's going to be very interesting, this streaming war, the battle between all of these companies. They're beginning to change and evolve their strategies. They're focusing more on streaming. It's going to be a titanic clash between the likes of Amazon Prime, Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO Max, Apple TV Plus. There's huge companies involved here, and it can only be good for us. I done a shite analogy last night. I compared it to video game companies. If there's no competition, then they get slack and the quality drops demonstrably. If you have lots of competition, they're all fighting to be number one. It's going to be great for people like us watching the content, because it will be at a high standard. They can't afford to release poor, mediocre quality movies and TV shows, acquire poor movies and TV shows, because people will not subscribe. They'll walk away and they'll go to a competitor. So exciting times, man.
Yeah,
for me anyway.
Well, here's another off the wall concept, John. It's we're going to move on to our next topic. It's animated Wizard of Oz, told from Toto's point of view in the works. The timeless tale of the Wizard of Oz will be retold from Dorothy's famous dog Toto's perspective in a new animated movie confirmed by Warner Brothers. This is coming in from Screen Rant once again. The timeless tale of the Wizard of Oz will be retold from Dorothy's famous dog's perspective in a new movie confirmed today. It will be far from the first time the 1939 classic based on the 1900 book by L. Frank Baum was rebooted for modern audiences. There was the dark 1985 sequel Return to Oz, animated and Muppetized versions. I loved it as well.
I loved that movie.
Sam Raimi's 2013 blockbuster Oz. I never seen that.
The
Great and Powerful, plus an abandoned Todd McFarlane version, among others. But the new version will be first to put Toto acid. Well, I don't know.
You need to be on acid. Yeah, it's like being on LSD.
You are Little Dog by the Wicked Witch front and centre. Now, John, it's not the first time that you take. I don't think Toto will mind this, because you're right. He's
well dead. Yeah. He's been reincarnated about 10 times.
He was a minor, memorable character, I would like to say.
But you to ask who it was.
You take that. It's not the band Toto who sung Africa. I think they were named after that, actually. But I think why you would do that, I don't know.
Wow.
Taking it from this perspective, John, it kind of reminds me so much of George Lucas's storytelling perspective through the droids and A New Hope, where you're taking it from the sort of the basement level, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way towards this beloved famous dog or anything like that, but
it's a very scruffy looking dog.
Making it animated as well, I think, is a clever move from Warner Brothers as well. John, what's your take on this? Do you think this is a good idea? You've seen it from the perspective of a different character. I can't remember another film doing that. I'm not really sure. I probably have to think about it, but what's your thoughts?
I can't recall another movie doing it from an alternate perspective.
Yeah,
a tried and tested classic story like Wizard of Oz. I don't think it's been done before. I can't think of any other movie. I think it's an interesting concept. Certainly it's shown that it will be. I mean, the original movie was probably slanted at the younger demographic as well, although it was strangely dark in places, so perhaps it ticked many demographics. But this animated effort, slanting from the perspective of Scoon, if you'd like, from the dog's perspective, reeks to me of a movie for the younger demographic. It's not going to be like a Pixar, where it's doing something grandiose with storytelling and thematics, and then it's under the surface, and then superficially it's for young kids. I can't see that. This looks like it could be an out-and-out sort of really young age demographic movie, where position it in the school holidays or something like that, or vacation, depending on where you're from. But it's an interesting concept, Stephen. I was obsessed with Wizard of Oz when I was younger. It Return to Oz, I loved that. That was the one with the skating guys, creepy as hell.
Yeah,
it's just a wacky, as you said, acid. They said it in the article, actually, acidity or something.
I wasn't sure if that was the right word they were using.
It's like an acid trip going to Oz. It's crazy. Acidly, it's colourful.
Labelled,
yeah, acidly. So it's an interesting world, and it's certainly a world that would probably do well in an animated format. I would imagine it would. I think the key here, Stephen's getting the actual animation studio correct. If it's something like Illumination or a company like that, then it could really pop with the way that technique. I don't want to see a sort of Hotel Transylvania Addams Family animation style with elongated heads and stuff like that. I want to see it being really snappy, cool animation. Artistry or something.
I don't know if this gives us any clue, John, but this next part in the article does say Deadline reports Mozart in the Jungle co-creator Alex Timbers will direct, based on the book Toto, the Doggone Amazing Story.
So there's an actual story.
The Wizard of Oz by Michael Morpurgo. The Warner Brothers animation project, first put into development in 2018. So it'll be, I think it's their own team, will be a musical with a script by John August, the prolific writer of Big Fish, Corpse Bride, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and 2019's Aladdin. So seem to have the right team on board as well.
They certainly do have the right team. A team that would know the genre, if you like, and how to adapt a story very well. The fact it's going to be a musical too, that's interesting. Certainly there was musical numbers in the original Wizard of Oz. And then you've got the whole Pink Floyd album thing, Dark Side of the Moon, I think. That just was designed and to be watched as a sort of soundscape with that movie. I've never done it. It's a disturbing enough movie with dwarfs hanging in the background and stuff like that.
Just when I was closing off this article, would be, I wonder if Toto's eyes set a sight on that, and maybe that's what we're going to see in his perspective.
Stephen,
see that famous crane?
The crane. That was a dwarf. No way, man. That dwarf was hanging. It was like a pendulum. Stephen, though, final thing I'll add, it is interesting, the fact there's an actual story about Toto's actual return to Oz. Perhaps it's just going to be focusing on him. Maybe he goes on his own without Dorothy, and it's a journey just with him in this world. Maybe new sidekicks and stuff like that. No cowardly Scarecrow and whatever the hell, even there, Tin Man and the Lion and stuff like that. Be interesting. It's something that just reeks of a young demographic animated movie, a kids movie. And
it might get this next generation interested in the classic film. There's always that slant as well. But we'll move on anyway, John, to our next article coming in from Screen Rant. Surprise, surprise. It's the Batman set photos show Bruce Wayne with gun holster. Brand new photos from
the graphics
the set by Arbats.
That's what he's called.
So brand new photos from the set of Matt Reeves. The Batman reveals Arbats' version of the Bat of Gotham having a gun holster. Now, these photos reveal Bruce Wayne wearing a gun holster after a series of start and stops in the production due to the coronavirus pandemic. Principal photography for upcoming Matt Reeves' DC Films project is now in full swing, despite Warner Bros. Officially delaying the movie from October 2021 to March 2022, giving it a few more months of wiggle room, like that, in the light of the several films hurdles it suffered the last several months. Now, I'm not going to read on and on and on. It's only telling us who's in the film. We all know who's in the film. What I'm going to do, John, is just going to move down to the images. I think it's coming in from Mr. Undead _ on Twitter, who's managed to capture these photographs. That's a great suit, that. I like that. Is that Arpats that's in the suit, though? Or is it
that's not Arpats, that's the
man with the
massive
chin.
Yeah, that's Ben Affleck.
Now, massive. John, this is one of the things that does intrigue me, and it was a lot of things, talking about Ben Affleck as well and his interpretation of The Dark Knight, his killing sort of rule. Very different to Christopher Nolan's trilogy. It looks like, if that is what it looks like, it could be the same sort of position that Bruce Wayne is going to be taking with his alter ego as well. But saying that, it's a gun holster. It could hold a stun gun, could hold a grapple gun. We don't know, some kind of bat tool or anything like that. So are we looking too much into this just now, or do you actually hope it's a gun holster for a gun?
I hope it's a gun, because I've said from day one it's based on the first, I can't recall it, what the actual, I was just speaking about it yesterday as well, it shows you my memory. It's the first, the golden age, I think, or whatever, the very first sort of iterations of the Batman graphic novel. It's
he's only 2 years in, isn't he?
It's based on the early stories of the Batman and when he was more detective heavy, and this gallery of villains were just coming into play as well. And by all accounts, in those early stories, he didn't have the no-kill policy. He would kill if it was absolutely required. And as you did say, I'm pretty sure Affleck was doing a couple of people in as well. So,
albeit baddies, but
baddies. So it's not something that's alien.
No.
And this is a movie that's all based on vengeance. Who are you? I'm vengeance. So this is a guy who's got real anger issues. He's on a bit of a trailblazing journey to just wipe out people who have wronged him. I don't know who it is yet. Is it Carmine Falcone? Is it Penguin? Is it just Pengling, as Benedict would call it? Penguin? I don't know, man, but this is a guy that's on a vengeance mission, and he's certainly not going to be shy of perhaps using violence. We've seen him beating the living shit out of someone. If that guy isn't drinking out of a straw, eating out of a straw for the rest of his days, then he should be dead. So this is a guy who's already dishing out some real batterings, if we like to say here in Scotland, batterings being a beating. So I would be adverse to it being a gun, but as you did say, Stephen, it's not an absolute certainty he's using a handgun in the actual holster. It could be
the thing, isn't it?
A sort of, I don't know, it could be something that he fires at a weapon,
like
a building, a grapple, and sort of swings up with it. Doesn't mean it's an actual weapon, but the suit and stuff like that, these little arrow things he's got in the gauntlet on the arm and stuff like that, it seems like he's a very early version of Batman, as they have admitted he is, and that he isn't going to be adverse to violence.
Even the chest plate as well kind of suggests that it's the gun that killed his parents. It's the sort of elements of the gun reformed into a bat signal as well, which I do like, I've got to be honest with you. I'm the same with you, John. I wouldn't mind seeing it either. It's like, because it's
a different take on the character.
Yeah, Ben Affleck did it to an extent, but this is the theme and the tone of this will be totally different. That was one of the things about Ben Affleck. He had to go along with the theme for the Warner Brothers Expanded Universe thing, or DCEU. I'm getting it all wrong. And it had to stay a certain tone. This one is free from that. It's separate. And I want to see them go down a darker route. Certainly it looks the way anyway from the trailer.
Yeah, it looks very dark and grimy.
Looks very dark. Yeah, exactly, John. It's going to be a different pace film, I think.
Looks like a haunted figure as well, Bruce.
Yeah.
It really does. Looks like a Kurt Cobain.
And I think it does have the elements of Seven in there as well, which I like. It's going to be very dark. I don't know the rating, if it's been given a rating yet or anything like that.
Heavy speculation of an R rating.
Yeah, an R rating. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'd love that.
I'm all for that.
Because of violence and stuff.
Well,
Steve, what's your thoughts though on what I spoke about last night too, the Catwoman thing, where she's closely connected to Carmine Falcone, potentially a daughter or an adoptive daughter? Is that something you'd like to see? There's obviously connections to the comic book canon that she was in some iterations closely connected to Carmine Falcone. She could start off as a villain.
Yeah.
Under the tutelage of Carmine, played by John Turturro, and then maybe jump over to the other side of things, be a more heroic figure, flip-flopping like Selena Kyle likes to do.
Yeah.
Is that something you'd like to see? And what did you rate about some of the shots? She's in a dressing one, and even in there you see her with the helmet on.
There seems to be quite a few. We saw the ones with Colin Farrell as well, coming out, clearer shots of him. His makeup is absolutely amazing.
It is.
I can't believe it's him. The only thing it gives it away is his eyes. He's got very distinctive eyes, Colin Farrell, but Zoe Kravitz. I forgot her name for a minute there.
I do it all the time.
A stunning looking lady as well. She fits the role of Selena Kyle, I think. She's got that elegant look about her, but someone that's not to be trifled with either. And I'm glad they are keeping the sort of flip-flopping nature of the of her character.
Could
because
be doing a Batman.
That's what she's like. Yeah, exactly.
She's in her daytime job or whatever. During the day she's with Carmine Falcone, at night she's working with Batman. That'd be very interesting.
And her connection with Falcone as well interests me. That's a different thing again, just like we were talking about obviously with the gun thing. It's a different take on this character as well, having different origins. Maybe we'll see how she's motivated as well, how she acts the way she does, which is going to be different from what we've seen before. I can't remember the actress's name. It played on The Dark Knight again.
Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, sorry. I'm mind blanked there. Hers was to do with the class system in Gotham that really annoyed her. She was a sort of amateur cat burglar. Battle for survival, basically. But this might be a different thing altogether. This seems a bit more dark and depressing, her sort of background, so I like it.
Stephen, one thing's for sure, final thing I'll add, he's right, this Mr. Undead guy on Twitter, this will cause a meltdown. It will. People are already riled up about Pattinson playing Bruce Wayne. They're making up stories about the guy not working out and causing issues behind the scene. I watched a video, a guy who's got contacts on the actual movie says it's bullshit. Like I says, it was bullshit. Doomcock's just, he's sort of scaremongering and putting his little ladle into the melting pot again and stirring things. It will cause a meltdown though. These DC fanboys are just incredible.
Well, John, something else that did cause a meltdown. It wasn't George Lucas's fault this time, but he certainly had the idea in his head back in 2012. George Lucas, Star Wars 8 also killed Luke Skywalker. A new Star Wars book reveals George Lucas' original treatment for Star Wars 8 called for Luke Skywalker to die, just like The Last Jedi. Luke Skywalker died in George Lucas's original plan for Star Wars 8. I hate when they call it that. It's Episode 8. Prior to selling Lucasfilm to Disney, Lucas spent a year developing his own version of Star Wars 7 and ironed out treatment for the sequel trilogy. Obviously, the studio opted to go in different directions. That's a discussion for another day. Discarding Lucas's ideas
decided to stab a old mentor in the back
and continuing the Skywalker saga in their own way, while Disney's trilogy got off to a strong start with Star Wars The Force Awakens. You're not calling it Star Wars 7 now. The subsequent two installments, The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, proved to be divisive for various reasons. This left viewers wondering if Lucas' trilogy might have been better. I don't know, John. We'll never know that because we don't know.
Sincerely hope it would.
We just don't know. People, it's easy for people to say though, it couldn't have been any worse. Well, you don't know that,
they'd have hated it, Stephen. He says it himself. They would have hated it.
Now, talking about Luke Skywalker, John, and his death in episode 8, sorry. His death was in episode 7, let's be honest.
Yeah, it was.
Didn't even get started.
Character died.
Now, his death was not a massive issue with most Star Wars fans. I grew up idolising Luke Skywalker from 1977 all the way through, waited 30 odd years to see this man's return, and this is what we got. I'm not bitter about it now. I've moved on. Mark Hamill's okay in life. He seems to just be getting on with things and accepting it, and as long as that guy's okay, then I'm okay. The fact Luke Skywalker was handled prior to the death was the big issue with a lot of people. Where he'd been, where he'd ended up, and his sort of his whole mentality towards the Jedi shocked a lot of people, and I think Rian Johnson was always going to go for the shock value. But the death of him, whether it be George Lucas's vision or Rian Johnson's vision, it was always going to be the case anyway. But in the both of them, I think in this article from Screen Rant, it does say it would have been a heroic death either way anyway. I think the way they handled his passing was the best way they could, to really sort of stamp his legend throughout the galaxy and always be remembered as possibly arguably
the man who stood up single-handedly to the First Order.
With a laser sword. He actually did say, do you think I was going to do that? And he did it. A lot of people didn't like the whole hologram thing, or I don't know what you call it. It's projecting.
Force projection,
projecting across the galaxy. It made sense. I don't want to see Luke Skywalker go out like a chump like Han Solo did. I know you don't either, or didn't. No. But that was never the issue. It was the events leading up to that bothered us, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was. And it was just the bastardisation of the character, Stephen. It wasn't even remotely what we had seen in the original trilogy. This was a guy. I was doing a Stephen King there. This was.
I've been doing that all
night.
It's
like a bee. It was my first picture as a director. I actually kind of liked it. Never directed the movie again after it. Clearly had a mental breakdown. Hit the bottle heavy. He was hitting it during the promotion of the movie. I'm not hitting the bottle though. I'm just tired. So I'll get on with this and don't want to make any more mistakes. Bastardisation of a character, Stephen. Not at all what we'd seen in the original trilogy. He was the most hopeful of the Jedi. What was left of the Jedi. You could see hope in sort of, I don't know, redemption in the most evil machine-like guy in the galaxy at that point. So for him to go from that figure to being battered down 30 years later to a figure who was willing to even think about striking down his own nephew, that is just, it's so out of character, it's unreal, really. Yeah. And that's why Rian Johnson shouldn't be allowed near a pre-established franchise. Great independent thinker, great independent filmmaker. We've seen that with his other movies, most recently Knives Out. He's a brilliant director and scriptwriter and screenwriter, if you'd like, when it's his own vision. But when he's taking on pre-established character stories with huge expectation, pre-established mythology, doesn't work. He bastardised Luke Skywalker. And they say here that George Lucas may very well have wanted to kill him off in episode 8 too, but I can guarantee they would have had a hands-on approach, a big role in the first movie in that sequel trilogy, and George Lucas, his treatment of it, his vision of the story. There's no way he'd have been a hermit hiding off in Act 2. The whole movie spent idolising in the sort of mythology of Luke Skywalker, trying to finding him in the final shot, and then in the very next movie making him out to be this disenfranchised hermit and then killing him off at the end. He would have had a real sort of, I don't know, hands-on approach in the first movie. It would have been influential for the story. Then he would have went out in a more natural manner after we'd seen him at his best.
Do you know what always crosses my mind, John? If Harrison Ford didn't agree to sign on for The Force Awakens, we might have seen that. I think it was a one and done opportunity for Lucasfilm to have Harrison Ford back, who no one in a million years thought would come back to the franchise. Let's be honest, he's not really been very gracious of the franchise over the last 30 years or so. Says very little about it. He clearly moved on, and rightly so as an actor. That's his right. But they knew that they were getting him for one film, and they would have to make sure that that film was Han Solo centric, which meant there was no room for Carrie Fisher's Leia. There was no room for Mark Hamill's Luke either. What's your thoughts on that? Do you think it would have turned out differently if perhaps Harrison Ford didn't sign on?
Perhaps Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill wouldn't even have signed on either, Stephen, and then they would have been forced to go off and do totally unique storytelling instead of just piggybacking off of the original trilogy to bring back generations of fans and then letting them all down by shitting upon the most popular character in the entire franchise. It's not Han Solo. No. It's not Princess Leia. It's not Chewbacca. It's not R2D2. Not R2. I don't know what I said there. Starting to go downhill here. It was like Skywalker, and they didn't give the fans what they wanted. This guy in his prime, wrecking the absolute shout of people. I suppose he kind of did wreck the First Order and Kylo by force projecting across the galaxy. And look, I agree with you. I didn't actually mind the death of Luke. I thought it was quite befitting. He went out in front of a dual sunset. He went out in his own way. He wasn't made to look like a fool by his nephew but the First Order, like Han Solo was. Yeah. So that was okay. It was just the way they handled the character in general I didn't like. And I agree with, obviously, George Lucas's vision as well. Him getting out in the middle of the story, passing the baton over to the new generation. It would have been handled better though, man. It would have... Lucas, terrible at dialogue, overarching story, much better, man. We've seen it with the prequel trilogy. The dialogue was corny, the effects have aged horrendously, but the overarching story is right. Yeah. And he would have got it right for this. It was his vision. He should have had his vision for this Skywalker saga played out, and they stabbed him in the back. They shat upon the guys.
I try my best not to compare the sequel trilogy with the prequel trilogy, John, based on the fact that the prequel trilogy had to lead to somewhere. It already had the sort of elements in place with the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin, his fall from Jedi to Sith, the rise of Palpatine as well. These things were already in place. The sort of build up to the construction of the Death Star, all these little elements were already in place. The sequel trilogy didn't have anywhere to go other than the outline was the Jedi Academy or Temple or whatever failed, and from there they took it from that. Because I always crossed my mind when they said, when there was talk about in episodes 7, 8 and 9 when Lucas was still in charge, I was like, I don't really know how they can top a villain like Darth Vader. I don't know how they can top an organisation and a front like the Empire. I don't know how they're going to be able to top having the heroic figure like Luke Skywalker without copying all these elements. And that's exactly what they've done. They've copied them all, but all diluted versions of what we already saw.
BB-8.
That's why I think a lot of people at the end of The Rise of Skywalker said, what was the actual point of this story? It didn't really bring us any more forward than it did at episode 6.
Well, it took place over about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it was terrible. Yeah. The character arcs were horrendous. Stephen, just a discombobulated shambles of a trilogy, overseen by a discombobulated shambles of a producer and president. And the sooner she's out, the better it will be. It'll be celebration. It'll be celebrations like Endor.
Yeah.
When that woman goes away from Lucasfilm, because she's just absolutely killed the opportunity to have the 3 iconic Star Wars characters back together again, sharing the screen at the same time.
Never get it again, John.
Never going to get it. And it's because of that fool. So the sooner she goes, the better. She's masquerading as a producer. I'm beginning to think it was all a man's work now. I really am. I don't want to become a misogynist, because that's not me. But I really am beginning to question her career now, because she has just been a disaster for Star Wars.
Yeah.
And yeah, look, maybe you're right. Maybe it was down to JJ as well. I don't know. But I know it was. He shat the bed with Luke Skywalker. Plain and simple. Completely shat the bed.
Yeah.
He was terrified of handling the character. He put it off to Ryan Johnson, and he
made that the plot, wasn't it?
He made it the plot, and Ryan was left holding the baby.
Yeah.
And he even shat upon Ryan, because he forced him into a corner as well. Because he had to continue that movie straight off from the cliffhanger at the end of The Force Awakens. So he had to make a direct continuation.
That's what
it really pushed him into a corner.
This story team, or whatever they're called, I can never remember their official title. I'm not that interested in them, because they were clearly on vacation, as they call it in the US, during that period of 2015 to 2019 or whatever it was. The last one came out.
We're dining off the $2 billion.
I didn't care when it came out. And I'm
2015, 2017, 20.
What were they doing this whole time? Surely they should have been more hands-on, involved in the overarching story, of 3 films. Clearly weren't. You know, they were leaving it to directors. Leave directors to direct. Don't get them to write as well, especially if you're going to have separate ones. Where Trevorrow obviously was going to be the third person involved in it as well. But
and by all accounts, a much better concept for his movie. But we'll never see it.
And the funny thing is, with every release, it kind of restricted the next director's sort of creative freedom. It's ridiculous when you think about it. Irwin Kershner did the middle part of the original trilogy, John, The Empire Strikes Back, which most people regard as the greatest Star Wars film ever made. No doubt about that. But he left it in a cliffhanger, open-ended, where you can have all these interpretations, and it won't really matter till you see the third film, Return of the Jedi, for it all to be play out. The whole I am your father was left hanging for 3 years. He's got to be lying, James Earl Jones said it as well. He's got to be lying. He's actually saying the lines. He's got to be lying, and that's how it was left. The Last Jedi wasn't left like that. It was closed. It was a closed book. We were left with Broom Boy and nothing else. We've got I can't remember the line that Leia said. It was Carrie Fisher's last, obviously, line.
We've got everything we need.
Yeah, no, you've not.
We've got Rey.
And you've got Broom Boy, apparently.
We've got Broom Boy, who never seen the light of day again. We've got the Jedi artifacts, the book, so we've got everything we need. You've got me, because I was a Jedi.
We've killed Snoke.
I've killed Snoke.
It's okay.
He was a clone.
Yeah,
we'll bring back the Emperor. Terrible writing.
Rubbish.
Stephen, final thing I'll say on it, the original trilogy, you touched upon it. What makes that so special is the fact they're all independent, standalone movies. You can watch them all individually.
I've done that.
And step away, and they work individually. And then you can bring it together as a cohesive trilogy, and it all interconnects beautifully. But you can watch these movies individually. You cannot watch any of those sequel trilogies movies individually. They just don't work on an individual basis for me. And they don't work as a cohesive trilogy either. Just a shambles. A shambles. Disgraceful. I can't believe we're talking about this Star Wars trilogy now the way we do, when we were so excited 5-6 years ago for this. The way they've dropped the ball is remarkable.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Hopefully this director John is not dropping a ball on his next project, because he's got Joaquin Phoenix teaming up with him. It's Joaquin Phoenix's Napoleon and Ridley Scott's Kitbag biopic. Director Ridley Scott has already lined up his next movie, Kitbag. Shitbag. With Oscar winner Joaquin Phoenix in the leading role, Ridley Scott and Joaquin Phoenix are teaming up again for the historical epic. The Alien director has set up his next project. This is coming from MovieWeb, by the way. Kitbag, which will be a biopic about French military leader. I don't like that name, Kitbag. Napoleon Bonaparte. I don't like that at all.
It came from a quote, Stephen.
Yeah, Phoenix.
The general staff's hidden in every soldier's Kitbag.
Nah,
okay.
Shitbag. Phoenix will star in the leading role, making for a Gladiator reunion. This comes just as Scott is finishing up work on another period piece, The Last Duel, and after Phoenix won an Oscar earlier this year for his work in Joker. That instantly makes this a desirable package. According to a new report, Disney's 20th Century Studios is developing Kitbag with Ridley Scott's Scot-free production company. David Scarpa, all the money in the world, is on board to write the screenplay. Kevin Walsh, not your brother, is it, John? Is on board as a producer alongside Scott. As for the title, it comes from the saying, there is a general staff hidden in every soldier's kitbag.
I've read that 5 times. I still don't know what that means.
What a shit phrase.
And I'm quite an intelligent guy. I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but I've got a really good grasp of the English language, pretty high IQ, and that just completely befuddles me, that.
Yeah, I was going to read the quote there, John, that original and personal look at Napoleon's origins and his swift ruthlessness climb to emperor viewed through the prism of his addictive and often volatile relationship with his wife and one true love, Josephine. John, all kidding aside, Ridley Scott and Joaquin Phoenix involved in a project like this certainly excites me. Yeah, I don't know about yourself.
Does?
Yeah.
Yeah, Stephen, look, I don't think he's actually tackled an historical biopic like this or drama since Gladiator. Now, Gladiator wasn't an historical biopic, so I'll get that out of my system right away. I'm slightly contradicting myself. But it was an historical sort of fantastical drama movie. So he's not. I don't believe he's touched upon this since then. I think that was 2000, maybe 2001 Gladiator.
2000, yeah.
20 years. And I don't know if he's worked with Joaquin since then. I hedge a bet he hasn't. So these two guys, we know they work together. Just bring Russell Crowe in and we've got a match made in heaven. That's not going to happen. He's too fat now. Actually works in some strange way. They liked obesity back then, didn't they? They were very fat, glutinous shits. So no wonder those boats didn't sink under the enormous weight of all those fat bodies. But look, I digress, man. Getting off on tangents about fat. Thinking about Trump dancing on the stage now. It's not good.
I saw the Lemmy for that. Yeah.
Lemmy was amazing. Oh, he destroyed him. Fantastic. I love that quote.
It's true.
That's true. Oh, but Stephen, this has got potential. It has, and I like what they say in that quote. Slanting it through the prism of his addictive and often volatile relationship with his wife and one true love, Josephine. It's not just a historical biopic about the man's triumphs and his failures on a sort of military level, because he was one of the great generals, emperors, if you like, of the last, I don't know when he was hanging around, 200, 300 years ago. I'm going to maybe hedge a bit again, hazard a guess, 200 years or so. 18th, 19th century, 20th, not 20th.
Maybe someone can comment below.
Someone can comment below and save me, man. It was the 19th century. But it's not just going to be about his military successes, all of the big sort of bombastic things that he get involved with. The more personable side of things, his relationship with his wife, how that shaped him. And look, it's a great choice. It's an inspired choice to get Joaquin in because he's a great actor. We've seen it with Joker, but we've seen it with previous movies as well. Guy's amazing at delivering character performances like this. He can display the whole human lexicon of emotions. And this is a deeply controversial figure. He gets slagged for being very short and volatile and angry. I think he was like 5'6" or something back then. It wasn't that short, man. It was average height. Just like Hitler. I mean, he's a shithead. Hate the guy. You can use every adjective in the world, but he wasn't that short.
The Napoleon complex from, isn't it, for short?
Yeah, they like to bash these sort of antagonistic figures in history for being short. I think this is Hitler in one testicle as well. It's very strange. They like to bash these guys for one reason or another.
The others in the Kelvin Hall department.
It's just not true. It's like, oh shit. So hopefully they right some of the wrongs and they maybe redeem this guy's image for the 21st century. And what better way to do it than to bring in Joaquin Phoenix with a potential Oscar worthy performance again. And Ridley, we all love Ridley Scott, don't we? Really, he's a great director. Hopefully he can go back and redeem the Alien franchise as well, because it's a bit of a shambles just now.
One man can, it's him.
And I'm willing to step in as a